Hi, we're here with Justin Schwarz and Griffin Dunne, the director and star of The Discoverers. Welcome.
Thank you.
So on the East Coast, Justin, we're more accustomed to Renaissance fairs and Civil War reenactors. So how are the Discoverers of the Northwest different?
Well,
what can you tell us about them?
I mean, so this movie, The Discoverers, which is coming out on May 16th in New York and on May 30th in LA at the ArcLight Hollywood. It's a film about family, and so, it always started with the idea of, there's a line in the film where Griffin says, you can't divorce your family even if you don't get along. And it was this idea of family being like sort of your biggest source of strength, but also the origin of all your problems. And so when I decided to tell a story about a movie, or write a movie about a family that gets forced on this Lewis and Clark historical reenactment trek, I knew I wanted to do like a history reenactment, but I wasn't really sure of the time period, so I was looking at different times to kind of locate the story. And the sort of Civil War stuff, it seems so overly tread. And the film's also really about, in case the title's not a giveaway, it's about discovery. It's about discovering family and yourself and the road and history in America. So, Lewis and Clark seem like the perfect kind of, they're the first discoverers in our country. I mean, granted, there were Native Americans living there before they got there. But it was such a great thematic metaphor also for a guy that Griffin plays who's sort of at this middle-age, crisis. And so, by using that sort of discovering into that new land where it was all uncharted territory, it became like a great sort of way to marry the two ideas. So
did you know they existed, or did you find them when you researched them?
I didn't really know they existed. I knew, I'd known about like Colonial. I'd gone when I was a kid to Colonial Williamsburg with my junior high school or elementary school.
Me too.
And I'd known about Lewis and Clark early in grade school, and then I was just kind of looking online, and I found this group that actually has done, they redid the 200-year anniversary reenactment, and they actually went across the country. I mean, granted, they had like trucks as backup, and they had a whole support team. But I went and visited with them and interviewed a bunch of them, and actually ended up doing an audio documentary, which was something I shared with the actors as well to help them prepare for the role. But it was like a fascinating, pastime. I mean, and this very rich subculture with a really diverse group of people that are drawn to it. So we didn't want to, any subculture kind of lends itself to comedy, like with a lot of rules, and there are people who are like thread counters as far as like how historically accurate you are. And then there are, they're like sort of Farbies, which are something that we talk about in the movie, which are kind of like weekend, enthusiasts. And so this family, kind of is a mix of hardcore, sort of like the grandfather, and Griffin's character, who is someone who did this as a child and has long, escaped from it, but is forced back into it, and his children who think this is a completely alien world.
So Griffin, when did you come on board with the project? Did you get a script in the mail, or did you?
Script in the
or in the the ether?
Yeah, footman came by. It dropped in. It was the quill
on
pen,
horse,
and I
yeah.
said I accept. It was a sent agent. My agent sent it, and I was immediately taken with it by the character. One, that there was a middle-aged character. It was the central carrying the movie sort of character. You don't get many scripts like that. And then also, there were so many things about this character, whose name is Lewis, that resonated with my own life. Being a father and being a son, and I play a guy who's an academic and an historian, and a really changing time. Where sort of he doesn't write popular history books, and that's becoming the vogue, and so he's feeling out of touch. And having been in the movie business for almost 30 years, I know what it's like, the ups and downs, and we're having a changing technology going on, constantly changing. So there's a lot to work with. It was like a no-brainer. I couldn't wait to get started.
It's really great to see you in a leading role.
Thank you.
And you've been doing a lot of great character work with Dallas Buyers Club, and I was just talking to Justin about Rob the Mob, which I really liked too. It's a cute movie. well, I guess not cute, but and then TV. there's a lot to it.
There's a sweetness to it.
And then great TV stuff like just Girls and House of Lies and all that. But so, were you looking for a lead role? Was that something that is that a dumb question? I don't know.
No, it's not at all. No, it's not at all. I mean, of course, I think lead roles had come before that I actually didn't do because it's if it's not sort of the right role, it's like that was your shot, and it can if it's not a script you really love or believe in, it's not that much fun to go to work every day.
Right.
What I had been doing is choosing material very carefully that I just sort of drop into, needle drop into the shooting schedule for about a week, and you don't really feel part of the company when you're doing that, and in this was like continuity all the way through, and it was great to be a lead in this movie and with all these other actors.
Yeah, it's
who
a great
I've known so many of them before.
Oh, it's a great cast. And how did Justin, as a director, I'm going to ask, talking the third
We'll
person,
talk
I don't
about
remember that. How did he work together to kind of create the camaraderie that you needed to build in terms of like having that family history on screen that you're coming in with a lot of baggage and
if anything, as far as my relationship with Madeline, he had to pull back the camaraderie because we got along so well, we made each other laugh, and have a real genuine affection.
I just saw that
for each other.
earlier, witnessed, yeah.
And so good to see her, and there has to be tension in the relationship. So Justin would have to step in and go, it's getting you too friendly, So we had to. It didn't. We had to go somewhere. The relationship had to, and we were already cutting to the chase. So, there was already. I know David Roushey, and I know Becky, and I know, and Stuart Margol, and I was one of the first actors I really was successful actors.
Really?
When I was just starting out, I became friends with.
Really?
And so it was really, with one generation of actors, it was like Old Home Week, and then there were the kids who were like total discoveries for me,
No pun intended.
No pun intended,
Right.
but I couldn't help being a wordsmith.
So, Justin, you've had a bit of a journey with this film, going back to the Hamptons Film Festival Screenwriters Lab. Can you talk a little bit about how this journey has gone for you? How did the story evolve?
Yeah, so, it started, I had another project that I was attached to direct that was with a much bigger company, and when the economy cratered, it kind of withered away. And I set out to write something that was small and sort of easily contained, and then The Discoverers was born. And then, my wife, actually, Laura Klieger, was signed on as one of our producers early on, and we had a lot of enthusiasm for the script early on, and we when we moved back to New York, we actually drove up to the coast and started location scouting and sort of found a lot of the places that we would return to a year later in Oregon for shooting. And then when we almost got to New York, we landed in Pennsylvania, which is where most of the principal photography takes place. And then one of the first things I did to kind of like reintegrate into the New York community was look for things like the Hamptons Writers Lab, and thankfully we were part of that, and that it was great to go out there and just have time to sort of refine the script. We also were part of IFP's No Borders program. So it was great to kind of like click back into the New York community. And
Are you from here?
I'm originally from California, but
Okay.
I had been in New York for a while and gone out to Hollywood for a bit.
Okay.
And then it was, it's been an amazing journey sort of getting to this place now and to be at the place where we're almost, where the film is going to come out tomorrow. It's been great to be able to work with all these amazing actors like Griffin and an amazing creative crew, and this is my first feature, so hopefully we'll be back at the Hamptons with more films, soon, maybe next year.
Can you talk a little bit about your team, about how you assembled your cast and your crew?
So as far as the cast was concerned, when I was in film school, I had worked with a woman named Patricia DeSerto, who I think was Patricia Kerrigan at the time, and she was Woody Allen's casting associate, and who has since graduated to Woody Allen's casting director. When I returned with The Discoverers, and she loved the script, and we, started sending it out to agencies, and I got these amazing lists, and one of the first names that popped up was Griffin, and it was just, I knew he would be so amazing for this role because, and I knew he had been mostly producing and directing for a while, so it wasn't a face that the audiences would already kind of have that immediate associations with, that they could sort of remember him from a lot of his great roles, but it would be sort of a chance to see him embody this character. And he also has this amazing mix of comedy and pathos, which I think is the tone of the movie. And so it was such a brilliant choice, and it was great when we sent him the script, and the next day we were on the phone and we were off and running. And then
it's impossible to imagine anyone else now at this at this point, I'm sure, for you too.
For sure.
Yeah.
And Madeline, was also, she was one of the first people we cast, and that was, it's such a tough role because it's a lot of verbal gymnastics, and she has this real caustic, kind of sardonic sense of humor that we also see that kind of vitriol in Griffin as well, but there's also a real sensitive, warm side, and Maddie has this great ability to sort of just move between those so seamlessly, and play this great vulnerability, but also this amazing kind of deadpan comedy. And then it was just building this
Were
family
those the
out.
two keys
Those
for
were
you?
the two keys that we started. And then, Maddie had actually worked with Devin, who had come in to audition for us, and that became, the brother. I saw a lot of young men who could have been that part, but he just sort of stood out, his kind of earnestness, which was great for that role of Jack. And Dreama Walker, who also has this kind of great folksy humor. And then it was just building out the rest of, and then Stuart came in to read for us, and again, I was just, and I think he probably came in to read because Griffin
I was going to say,
movie.
was that because of...
There were a lot of older actors that I saw, but his performance just really was so moving in the, in the room, and it's, you could just tell, in the first few seconds, actually, when a lot of these actors come in, they just have this magnetism, and sort of once they start speaking and you could see their body language, you could just see what they can bring to the part and how they can elevate it. And then, I used to watch Sledgehammer when I was a kid, which is this David Rashi's TV comedy, and he's such a brilliant comedian. And John C. McGinley, I read the script and came on just because he just really loved the script and wanted to work with Griffin. And then and then of course our leading lady, Cara Buono. I was watching Mad Men that season, and I just had no idea why John Hamm could have left her, and I still think she's the same way. The best woman on Mad Men that's ever played on Mad Men. And it would just be such a great. She has such a nice comic timing, but also she has that warmth and sort of that Alice Waters kind of Etsy. Which is kind of who that character is of Nell, and she was in LA at the time, and I had her go to the farmers market, and because I had gone to the Hollywood farmers market before when I was writing the script, and told her to talk to the mushroom men and the people who sold the blood oranges, and just to prepare for her role. And then we have such a big ensemble, I'm always going to forget people, but there's these great character actors like Ann Dowd and Marceline Legault, and who am I leaving out? I'm sure I'm leaving out somebody. And Scott Adsit, who is such a zany, crazy guy. And he, and David were Second City alums. So during that scene, sort of when he tries to stop the family from entering their reenactment, we actually, I think that took the longest to film of any of the things in the film, because they we were trying to crack each other up and sort of go to these wild and crazy places. So yeah, it was really just an honor and privilege to work with such a fantastic cast. And then as far as creative crew, I mean, we were just really discerning, and I met with maybe 24 cinematographers, and then Chris Blavelt's name came up, and we got on the phone and we were talking about Uta Barth photographs, and Eggleston, and Terrence Malick, which is one of the keystones of our film. And then Kelly McGeehee, who, you know, I was gonna work with another production designer at the very last minute because I couldn't set a meeting with her, and she's like called me and was like, I'm in Canada, like please don't, like I'm coming home tomorrow, you have to let me meet with you. And she's, you know, such a brilliant art, you know, department head, and has since, you know, did what Maisie knew, and the Ned Benson movie that's in Cannes this year.
I don't want to cut you off, but I want to make sure I get to one more thing before they cut us off. Can you just tell me what's next for you both? Like, Griffin, what do you do? What are you up to?
I'm doing a pilot. I did a pilot, and it's actually gone to series of a show called Red Band Society.
Okay.
With Octavia Spencer and Spielberg producing it, and it's a really kind of great series.
What's it about?
It doesn't sound like it's gonna be funny, but it's about teenagers in a cancer ward.
Huh.
But it's you know, kind of. It's sad, funny, touching, not treacly, sentimental or cloying, and I play.
Whatever you do, go.
Okay.
Anyway, I play a hypochondriac who is perfectly healthy, but very rich one, and I built a thing for myself, and the kids come to my place, and I get them high and feed them food.
Okay. So is that going to be on in the fall? Is that did it just happen?
I think we'll start shooting in July.
Okay. Okay, cool. And what about you? Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan?
I have a number of scripts that I'm finishing up right now, and then I'm gonna be on this tour promoting The Discoverers, and so we're going to be in LA on the 30th. We'll be in Seattle and Portland and Orange County, and we're sort of mapping out the rest of our sort of slow rollout across the country.
All right, so we'll make sure to link to that on the website. On your website, it'll have all that information for the film. All right, cool. Well, congratulations. Good luck. Have fun tomorrow.
Thank you.
And yeah, great film. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.